Welcome, Chaplain, in our second session of Day 3 in the Community Services Chaplaincy Training, Level 1. Now, we're going to see and we're going to discuss more about death notification and what to do and what not to do during a death notification. So if you're enrolled with this training, I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for enrolling with us. And may God bless you as you take this journey, and go with it and doing the marketplace ministry. This morning I shared a few verses from the book of John. Sorry about that. Just Joshua 1 verse 9. But God instructed him from verse 8 that he needs to go and do something. And I told the people, remember that advertisement? I think it was in the Sun advertisement. It says, life is a journey, enjoy the ride. And I told them, we are all on a journey heading to the same destination. Everybody, doesn't matter if you're living in the USA, South Africa, Zambia, or wherever you are on a journey, but we all have the same destination. And we need to be prepared for that destination. Now, unfortunately, we find ourselves many times at the door presenting a death notification. You'll find this in your manuals, page 85. And if you do not have this manual, it means that you haven't registered for the course. So if you want it, let me know and let's see if I can make a plan for you. Now, I've got some famous last words I took from Google the other day. And what happened was one guy said, I can beat it. That was his last words. I can beat it, or I can beat the train. I wonder if the gun is loaded. I look down the barrel and see. The other one, he said, look at the wire hanging down into the street. I'll throw it to one side and see what happens. I wonder how much electricity these wires carry. Okay, that was his famous last word. I'll just touch one to see if I can survive. I wonder whether this rope will hold my weight. The other one said, listen, that's the train whistle. Step on the gas and we'll beat it across the rail tracks. One guy said, that firecracker must have gone out. I light it again to see if it worked. One other guy said, watch me skate past the danger sign. I'll bet I can touch it. It's no fun swimming here. I'm going out beyond the lifelines. And there is many people going out behind the lifelines. People that's not trained. A chaplain, you would probably also need to go beyond the lifelines, beyond your comfort zone, beyond the situation that you're comfortable with, like your church and so on and so forth. So I want to encourage you today to learn more about death notification. Find something to read about death notification. There are typically two death notifications, two types. The first type is general death notification, and the other is marketplace death notification. With the general death notification, that type of notification will be inside or with the community where you live. And the marketplace death notification, it will be in the agency you serve. In times of crisis and trauma, individuals will have a natural tendency towards anger and blame. If the chaplain is not sensitive and caring, the organization can pay a terrible price from a public relations point of view. So therefore, chaplain, I want to encourage you to get the correct information. Always get the correct information, because if you have the wrong information, you're in real big trouble. Prior to arriving at the place to make this notification, the chaplain will need to be armed with as much correct information as possible relating to the death situation. Untimely deaths often present opportunities for confusion and misinformation, obviously. Factual information will be needed and expected by the family. You do not want to hear misinformation. You do not want to hear factual information. Factual, well, that's what you want to hear, factual, fata. So you need to know who died. Who's the person who died at the scene? Who is that? You need to know the name as well as the family relationship. Also the type of death this person died, or persons. How this person died. In other words, if it was a car crash, if it was a suicide, if it was a killing. When did it happen? The circumstances around that. What was, where was he? Where did it happen? The location, specifics. People would want to know where their loved one died. They do not want to know that he died somewhere on the N4. They would want to know on the N4, close to this and this off ramp, or between this and this off ramp. So the location is important. So these things is very important, chaplain, that you would know before you go to this family. You need to arm yourself with this info. Correct address and phone numbers. Get the right house. I was once at the wrong house. The lady fainted almost. And I asked, is this your son? She said, no. And I said, oh my goodness. So I found out that the house of the boy's mother, the boy who died, was just next door. I had to go again to the family. But this lady came with me. And also, you need to understand the mental or medical condition of those in the house. You should have a scope of that. You can ask anybody or any person working with this person if they know about any medical situations. Also decide who will deliver the news, you or the officer. There's nothing more frustrating, when you get in the house and you do not know if you're going to make the notification or the officer, because you cannot sit down and drink tea and do the notification. People would want to know, what is your business there? If both of you are in uniform, or both of you have come to the door and presented yourself as chaplains or police, then obviously they would want to know what's cooking, man, what's going on. So you need to decide before you get into the house who would deliver, the news. Once I had a case where the officer wanted to do the death notification, but when we got in the house, I was waiting for him to do the notification, but he was just speaking and speaking and speaking and talking and not doing the notification. And later on, he winked at me like this. I was wondering what, and I understood him that he needed me to do the notification. So make eye contact with the officer, because you thought he had the strength to do the notification, but when it came to that point, he realized he cannot do it. So he looked at me and he said, chaplain, with his eyes, please speak to the family. So therefore, chaplain, you can step backwards, but always remain in eye contact with the officer who you are accompanying to the house for the death notification. Also decide if you're going to do it already before, if you can. All right. Then identify the people involved. That it is important to know who these people are. That is, are they family, friends, colleagues, or someone who just happened to be visiting at the house you are visiting right now? The chaplain has this responsibility to make the notification to the family and to do it in a private setting where possible. So you cannot present this news to some other family members, but his direct family. So at the door, it's important to identify yourself. Tell them, I'm Steve Wallace. I'm Chaplain Steve Wallace. I'm working with the Metro Police Department, and I have an ID. It's my ID. And yes, obviously, you'll need to identify yourself before you can enter. And also make sure you have the correct John Smith's family house. Because if this is the wrong John Smith, you are in trouble. Your integrity, you'll make people sad who didn't lose somebody. The other day, the hospital phoned somebody here in Rustenburg, and they told her, ma'am, we're so sorry. Your husband just passed on because of his COVID-19, difficulties. She was crying and she was moping and she was sad for the whole night. She was crying. She called her babies, her family, boys and girls to come to her house. They all came. And the next day in the afternoon, the hospital phoned back again. They said, ma'am, we're so sorry. It wasn't your husband. So imagine that trauma that family must have felt. Maybe they wanted him dead. I do not know. But the fact remains is, always be sure you've got the right person. His family house. State that you have batteries and you want to come inside, if you may. Yes, some people will leave you outside. Let the officer stand in the front. If the officer wants you to speak straight away, then obviously you'll do that, because you know the information. You know that you've got the right, correct John Smith's house. You know that you've got a a good presentable way to speak to people. So yes, try to identify, get the correct people, and then obviously, you know, tell them you want to come inside if they don't mind, because you do not want to give this bad news on the porch. There was some people I've given death notification on the porch or on the stoop, and had to leave, with that. So that was sad for me. Then also vocabulary will often be different. You know, somebody would say, "I have a very bad news to tell you." This gives the survivor an important moment to prepare for the shock that will be coming. If you pre-warn them about the bad information, if you just go inside without telling them, then they'll ask you, make tea, yeah, and everybody, and they're wondering what the heck is going on. Then avoid vague expressions such as Sally was lost, people. Sally was lost or passed away. Call the victim by name. That's important. You don't want to know about your colleague, or call the person by name if you can. The pastoral response will obviously be different than the chaplain's response. With the pastoral response, the CSC will rarely know the deceased. The CSC will also rarely know the family. And also, the vocabulary will be different in these cases because you need to use the words dead or killed. If it's your congregation, you need to do a death identification. Obviously, you'll tell them, listen, I've got some bad news. Sally, she went to be with Jesus. That's church language. That is churchy language or Christianese. Church people would understand that the child is dead. He went to Jesus. They'll understand what you mean, he's dead. But in the community, when you do a death notification, maybe some won't understand that because many people are agnostic, they're atheists, and they're believing in other stuff. So yes, obviously you'll use the words dead and killed. This will be in your test. Always use the words dead or killed when doing a death notification in the marketplace. Yes. Do not use church vocabulary at all. If you can, just don't use it. I know you want to use it, but try not to. Inside of the house, what happens there? You take control of the house. You take control of the situation. Immediately, you need to step in and take control. Do not let the control fall out of your hands. Then also get inside as quickly as you can and be seated in a safe seat. Because if you're in a safe seat, obviously, you monitoring the police officer. Say, for example, one of you sits there and one of you sits over here. You're monitoring one another. He's checking your back over here, and you're checking his back. Because if you give that bad news, maybe there's somebody in the house that just runs down or comes from another room whilst the screaming is ongoing because of the shock. Because, this is a normal reaction in an abnormal circumstance. People will be shocked, they will scream, they will yell, they will curse. Do not try to stop them. Remember, it's an abnormal, it's an abnormal event. And the reactions they show is normal. So, break the news as soon as you can when you sit down. Please try to sit down before you break the news, if you can. Some people won't let you sit down before you break the news, unfortunately. They will just faint, fall down to the ground, break something maybe. But before you break the news, let them sit down because some will faint. And if they're on a chair, obviously that will help. Then when you break the news, you'll say something like, I'm sorry, Sally is dead. Or I'm sorry, Sally and Pete is dead. But take it one step at a time. You do the notification, then you explain the event. What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Who was responsible? And then obviously they will ask the question, for example, did he commit suicide? Because they want to know if he committed suicide. You cannot tell them, I don't know. They want to know, it's his parents or it is his wife. Yeah, obviously they would want to know that. And then the autopsy. It's a post-mortem examination to discover the cause of death or the extent of the disease he had. Then also, what about the media? Do we as chaplains speak to the media? We don't. We don't speak to the media because every department out there, every government sector, every private sector, most of the time, they will have their own media liaisons. They will deal with that. If the chief of police asks you, would you take a call from Pretoria News, 7 o'clock? Then you'll say, yes, yes, chief, obviously I'll take that. You need to have special special permission to do that. You can ask him something like, chief, would you mind just texting me the details, please? Don't tell him to use it against him in the future, because if you're in trouble and they want to know who told you, you must speak to the media. No, the chief told me, but where did he tell you? Is it in writing? So if he sends you a WhatsApp, and you ask him, listen, chief, would you just mind sending me a text message or something, and I can take a call, please? And then he'll do it probably. Then what about the funeral home? I've got a couple of numbers of funeral parlors here in my telephone. Well, I haven't lived in many cities, only in Pretoria and Rustenburg, and also in the United States for a year. But I've got a couple of numbers of the Rustenburg funeral homes. I had a lot. I mean, Pretoria is huge, so I had a lot of numbers of funeral parlors in Pretoria on my phone. And people will ask, what about the funeral? You should also ask, what do you think about the funeral? If it's an on-duty death, obviously the government probably would pay, or the employees, bosses will pay. But if it's off-duty notification, for example, maybe a community member, then obviously the family need to come to the party. So you'll give them information about that. Please phone this funeral parlor. You can even help them with that. I've done that many times, phoning a funeral service or funeral home and asking them to go to the scene or to the state morgue to find the body of Miss Sally. Okay. We have a theological perspective concerning death notification. In that regards, we do not assume anything, chapter. We do not assume anything, because when you assume something, what does it mean? Just break the word up in other segments. Yeah. When you assume, it makes an ass of you and me. So don't assume anything, especially with your wife. Then also, such as a religion being the same, assuming that they're also Christians, makes no sense. So the CSC will soon learn opinions, and premature conclusions will soon come back to haunt them and the organization for which they work. And it will be the hefty price to pay. But there's two critical things worth remembering. This is not the time to retool anybody's theology. Many times when you get to a home, and maybe they're old apostles, something like that, and you're Pentecostal, it's not your place to retool their theology. It's theirs, only theirs. And also, do not focus on theology at the expense of caregiving, because you need to care more than anything else. Chaplain, and also, secondly, opinions and conclusions. Do not offer opinions on the circumstances of death. And also, give only the facts which the agency permits you to give. If you are asked other things, then obviously, yes, you have to have permission for that. But don't assume. Do not assume anything. Okay. Then some reactions. There are extreme reactions. I mean, there's extremes, and we cannot play doctor at the house. We cannot play doctor and give them medicines because they feel bad. So yes, watch out for this. Protect yourself and the officer, because they're there for your safety also. They're there for your safety. Some people will react and respond, but when you're behind the officer, obviously the officer can assist you with that. Others will faint, and obviously you can be of assistance with the officer there. But allow people to express their emotions. Do not sit down and ask them, please, don't cry, man. He was a hero. Let them cry. Let them do whatever they want. Well, don't let them get a knopkier or a gun or something. Watch out for that. Then, most important, you have to listen to them. Take time, and listen to what they have to say. Don't watch your watch all the time. I mean, I do not expect anybody to sit at the house for more than 2 hours. I do not expect that. Sometimes you'll sit in the house for 3 to 4 hours. The fact is, you need to listen to the people. Yeah, they'll see through you if you're not listening, as I can see through you right now. I'm just playing with you. Give them all the time that it takes people. Give them time to, to speak and trying to, connect the dots about what just happened. The traumatic event, caused so much frustration, caused so much damage in their minds, in their hearts. Give them time to work through it. Give them all the time it takes. And also observe their reactions. Get them to breathe if you can. If you can see they're hyperventilating, take deep breaths, man. Take deep breaths. Deep breaths. It's now time to breathe. Also, foreign language notifications can include many other types of people that speak these languages, but you need to rely upon established resources in the town you're living in. There's many resources. You can find out from the police if you can speak Sotho. You can find out from the police if you can speak English or Afrikaans or whatever. But to locate a clergy person with this language or cultural background is also helpful. You can locate anybody. If you come to Rustenburg and you want to do death notification, you locate somebody that can speak the language, to help you doing this presentation or this death notification. But seek also out the police officer who can speak this language. That's also helpful because having the police around is helpful. Then also establish a repertoire of linguists. Build yourself a repertoire of linguists in your phone gallery or in your phone system. Just to put a number in and tell Monet to come and do a death notification in Afrikaans. There's some telephone notification, but it shouldn't be considered in our segment. We do not consider, telephone death notification. It's not allowed. I will even ask you in your question paper, should we allow death notification by telephone? You'll say no. But there's the reasons for that. And I cannot just say no for something and not give you reasons. And here comes the reasons to not make a telephone notification. You may not know if the person has health problems. You don't know what's going on in that house. Also, you may not know if this person has a support system available at the hand, or maybe this person is staying on a farm, secluded, somewhere up in the mountains. There's nobody, no neighbor, nothing. She's all alone. She's all alone. You may not know if the person has suicidal tendencies or if the person even tried suicide before. Also, you do not know the person may be blind, deaf, or have a different first language. Especially the blind, they can find their way in the house, specifically going to the telephone, picking up the telephone. These days we got cell phones, it makes it easier, but still we do not do death notification by telephone. So what happens is, as soon as they get this horrific news, it changes their mind, it changes their focus. They cannot see, so they're focusing where's the chairs, they'll be even more blinded. So also the person may be an invalid or otherwise non-ambulatory. This person may not even be able to, to express himself or herself. The individual may be a minor even, in a small child. The person may not care about the disease, and another death notification should follow up soon, So there's the reasons for not doing a telephone notification. I will only ask you this. Should it be considered? No, absolutely not. Because this is the reasons. There's a whole list of reasons. And I think there's even more reasons not to consider telephone death notification. Chaplains in other departments can also be of assistance. Do not make a telephone notification to another area. Rely upon chaplains in other departments. Rely on chaplains or clergy people in that city or in that town. It helps a lot. Call the sheriff's office or the police department's office and speak to the chaplain directly if you can. Political and service organizations connections also, in deceased is if the deceased is politically connected, the organization leaders may wish to deliver the notification. If this dead person is connected politically, allow the politicians to do their thing if they want, because it's promotion for them. It helps their whole thing. Do not stand in their way and say, listen, boss, this is not your place. It's my place. I'm the chaplain. I'm here to present the death notification. Let them be. You're there for the family. You're there to support the family. If they feel they want to do it, please let them do it. The chaplain will be responsible for the comfort and setting up a support system. After the notification, what do you do after? If they've learned now that the child is dead, what do you do? Notify other family members if you can. Always have some airtime on your phone, because many times family don't have that. And also get somebody as quick as you can to come over and do some intervention there. Yeah, I always reach out to the neighbors because they're the closest. Some family members they far, and they'll wait hours for them to arrive. But if you get a couple of members from the family, of the community there, it's easy. Notify the pastor, the priest, the rabbi, or any other support personnel of their choosing, and get them there, as soon as you can. So ask the family, ask the mother, ask the father, who can I phone? Who can I get here to come and help? And they'll tell you because they've got their connections. Then we have marketplace identifications. Chaplain will probably have established some relationship with the deceased or the deceased employee. Sometimes, And also, the chaplain may be called to tell an employee that a member of his family is dead. And also, these different degree of involvement with family or the employee itself. Chaplain will be asked questions they cannot answer. So how the chaplain handles this situation also speaks volumes. Because if there's a question you cannot answer, that will speak volumes to people. There's 10 important points you have to just note. It's not so important, but you just have to note this in your mind. But be sure you have the correct information. You need to arm yourself with all the relevant information. What happened, how it happened, who is it, who's who in the zoo. Get people in a relaxed setting. Let them sit down and relax whilst they're waiting for what you're to say to them. And do not assume or make anything up, chaplain. For example, I saw the skid marks. It was about 40 meters, and I think they were traveling on a speed of about 160, 170 kilometers an hour. Do not assume and make anything up. Tell only the facts you know, the facts that was given to you. No conclusions or opinions. It doesn't matter. The person is there. You cannot impress them. And they're also sad. They won't even listen. They will just remember what you said. Their child went over the speed limit. Also, never say, I don't know. Yes, obviously, there's some things you won't know. But never try. Just work your way around that. You're a chaplain, you'll know. Just work your way around that. If you're married, I mean, come on. Yeah, you can probably work your way around saying not, I don't know. Allow people to act out their emotions also. Let them just scream, let them cry, let them curse. Sorry for that, but let them. Don't say, oh my goodness, my ears, oh, my ears are hurting because you are using this bad language. Chaplain, some things can never be unheard. Remember what I said, one of the axioms of chaplaincy. If you're not prepared to hurt somebody or be hurt by somebody, chaplaincy may not be for you. Chaplaincy is difficult. That's why you are enrolled with this training. You can do it. You can do it for sure. But start a support system as quickly as you can because you cannot live without that. You cannot leave the family without a support system and say, listen, I need to go because I'm late for my church board meeting or I'm late for this or that. You cannot do that. You need to set up a support system as soon as possible. Therefore, break the news. Be sure you have the correct information and stuff like that. And then obviously, immediately start to set up a support system and get people over there. Answer their questions and don't initiate ideas in their mind. For example, ask the chief of police. He may answer this question. Don't initiate ideas in their minds. Just keep it brief, keep it simple. Keep it in the room. You don't always have to say something. Some people think they have to say something when they're in the room with the deceased family. You don't have to sit there and say something. You can just sit and listen. Some people need somebody to listen. I've seen so many times in counseling that when I just sit and listen, it means a lot to people. Like you. It means a lot. You just listen. It means a lot to me that you just listen. But this is how counseling works. You give the information and they just listen. They give down the information and you just listen. So the last point I want to make today is don't leave people without that support system, please. You shouldn't go without establishing that support system. That support system is vital. Thank you for attending the second class in the third day of training for level 1. Appreciate you, and if you have questions, do not hesitate to contact me ASAP. And I will for sure assist you on your questions. May God bless you. I'll see you at the next training event. See ya.